Brian Kelly cracking open a cold one with the boys.
Yeah. Hey, little thing in the light, you can't remember. So hard to handle now. It's around.
All right. Well, this is what did we watch this month? We didn't do one of these last month because we were rattling off all of our favorite horror films from 2018. And this month's going to be a real short one because Brian and I are both binging Game of Thrones, and that took up most of our free time. I've got 4 things on my list. So,
well, you guys know that that famous overused Jesus quote that's like footsteps in the sand, and it's like, you know, when I was
carrying you the whole time.
Yeah, it's gonna be me today.
I mean, I surprisingly
not
have
the first time that Scott compared himself to Jesus Christ. Certainly not the last. All right, then you go ahead and kick us off, Scott.
I mean, do you want me to kick us off, or do you want to just like do your spiels and then I just start talking and everybody listening can just click away?
I was gonna say, do you really want to truncate the back of this episode? Let's have you. So how many are on your list? Let's start there.
I don't know. I don't keep track like you guys do. I just write them down.
Okay.
Let me start you off with actually a little double feature.
All right, perfect.
You don't have to do like you don't have to burn through them, Scott, because I have like 9.
Okay. Well, I mean, I got quite a few, so
yeah,
we'll be fine. So I want to start off with 2 musical biopics that Megan and I watched this past week, actually. The first one was Jersey Boys, which is the story of Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Did either of you see that? I'm assuming Matt did.
I actually haven't yet.
Didn't Clint Eastwood direct that? Someone
Yes.
weird directed that.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, Clint Eastwood.
It was okay. It was longer than it should have been. You know, like it kind of went on and on and on, and you're like, wow, this movie's like an hour and 45 minutes long or 2 hours long or something.
I think longer than it should have been describes most of Clint Eastwood's movies.
Well, I've never seen
one.
I've never seen anything by Clint Eastwood until now. I don't think. I actively avoid him because he just is not my cup of tea.
He's a tough person.
Yeah. I don't like people that like confrontation.
And he built a career on it, basically.
Yeah. So that was A-okay. I don't know how it would really translate into a musical because it's like a stage play that they made into a movie. So because it just is like a lot of talking and not a lot of singing about a band, you know? And then also they really screwed up the timeline of Frankie Valli's daughter dying of drug overdose or something like that, because they have it happen before they do fucking what's the one? I love you, baby, and if it's
that song.
Yeah, like that was like that was like a decade before she died, but they have it in the movie that he wrote it after she died. And I'm like, no.
Biopics are never right. The Bohemian Rhapsody biopic is so off from like what the actual timeline is.
Yeah, I wanted you to tell me about that because that was my double feature because we just finished watching that last night. Bohemian Rhapsody, and I really liked it.
Yeah, it's good. It's good, but the biggest thing is that Freddie Mercury didn't find out he had AIDS until like 3 years after the Live Aid performance.
Oh, shit.
So like that throws things off. And the other thing that's like grossly inaccurate is that Freddie Mercury was actually the last member of Queen to do a solo album, and the rest of the band had pushed him to do it. They're like, come on, man, like do a solo album. We'll go on a brief break. But like they depict it as like this egotistical move that caused them to hate him forever, but they were always tight like throughout the whole process.
What the hell?
So
I'm so glad that I know this after watching the film, and I probably won't tell Megan how because Queen is her favorite rock band of all time.
Yeah.
And she thinks Freddie Mercury is like the greatest singer of like rock singer of all time. So
yeah, and I am inclined to agree with most of that. I love Queen, but yeah, it's a good movie. I still am kind of like, I don't know if Best Picture is like it's not Best Picture caliber to me. Like
no. Even for someone like me who loves Queen and loves music biopics, like I enjoyed it, but it's not like it's something that I'm going to revisit very often.
Yeah, I just think
Yeah.
it jumps around way too much. It's like Freddie joins the band, and then it's like the very next shot they're in the middle of their like second tour, getting ready to,
Yeah,
to record an
think-
album. Like Jesus,
I think what people need to understand, especially when it comes to biopics, is just because someone is a celebrity doesn't mean their story is interesting.
well, okay,
And sometimes you got to shake it up a little bit.
let's be real here. Freddie Mercury's story could have been just fine without those ridiculous changes. But that's what's so funny is that I think really what did it for me and what made me love the movie. I mean, love it as in love the experience of watching it. Was the cinematography was very, very good, and the casting choices
Perfect.
are.
They,
Brian May looks like
just
Brian.
like-
It's,
it's ridiculous.
crazy.
yeah, they did a great job with the casting of that.
Yeah. I think the issue is they wanted it to be about Queen more than about Freddie Mercury, and it kind of missed the mark there because it seemed like it was more about Freddie Mercury, but which is why it didn't like really focus on a lot. It like burned through a lot of this stuff, like as far as like him they didn't want it to be about like his struggle with AIDS. They wanted to like just kind of throw it in at the end, but they could have done, like, if I was directing, I would have done something differently where they're like band practicing and they're like, Freddie, you got a phone call, and he's like, I'm practicing, and they're like, it's the doctor, he says it's urgent, and then he looks directly in the camera and goes, I'm sure it's nothing, and then just
Oh,
Let's
God.
chalk that up to the reason why you probably didn't get picked for this.
So I'll chime in here. Is one of the movies on my list that I watched, and I'm still continuing to do things from like the worst to the best. So the worst thing that I watched out of the 5 things that made it onto my list is I got a Godzilla double feature DVD for Christmas. I'm only going to talk about one of them, and it was Godzilla versus King Ghidorah, and I was excited because I love King Ghidorah, but I didn't realize that this double feature was like the 1992 Godzilla movies, where Godzilla probably looks the best that he's ever looked, but the plots are just fucking bonkers. And this one involved a whole bunch of android people, so that lost it for me a little bit.
1992?
Yeah, they were making them in Japan still.
Oh no,
like,
I knew
right
that,
up-
but that doesn't sound like a 92 thing. That sounds like a 72 thing. That's weird.
Oh, I know. I was like, what the hell is happening? And there's just like at one point, one of these people, you find out that they're a robot because they get in a car accident and then they run at super speed. And that's the reveal that he's a robot. And I was just
Oh.
like, oh my God, what is this?
I was hoping that the reveal would be that they pull up their shirts and they pull apart their abs and they're robots inside.
If only someone else got there a year earlier, so they had to change it up. But that, like, any point where Godzilla's fighting King Ghidorah, some solid shit going on, but everything else involving the people, terrible. Which is kind of all Godzilla movies, really. You're only there for the fight scenes,
Right? Yeah. I
But-
mean, like that's why they get to have some fun in between all the stuff that people care about. They're like, hey, let's have something crazy.
Let's make a robot person.
Yeah.
But that's my one, so I'll pass it over to B. Kel for him.
So I'm gonna probably just start with my biggest letdown. And in hindsight, I guess, marketing's been bad in Hollywood, and there's a few where like they marketed movies terribly. But First Reformed looked like such a awesome movie, so I was really, really excited to see it, and it made no sense. I left the movie just so confused as what went on. It's on Prime if anyone wants to watch it, but it's just like, I don't want to give any spoilers. It's just a weird fucking movie, and it's not. It seemed like super artsy, like for the sake of being artsy. I don't want to disrespect it by calling it Mother, but it's like close to that,
And got a best script nominee, which I could not believe when I saw that.
Wait,
Yeah.
First Reformed got a Best Script nomination?
Yeah.
That's weird.
It's Ethan Hawke in it. I
And
mean, it's
he's
a
like a-
decent one.
He's like was he like ex-military or something, and he like has to kill people or what?
Nope. It's
Priest.
He is a priest, and he is just there to. So I'm not going to get into what the movie is, but what the trailer looks like is they portray the trailer as he's a priest. He's helping this one guy who's a human rights like activist, but like on the extreme. The guy's wife finds like a bomb and like plans to like make a pretty much a big attack, and he's sworn to secrecy and is trying to like stop this. That is not what the movie is like at all.
I want
It's
you to
not
tell
even
me
close.
off air what actually happens, because I remember seeing the trailer and being like, this looks like some shit that I would have seen a trailer for in the 90s on like a VHS tape. It was like this weird, such a weird concept for a film in 2018.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It reminds me because I watched it with Brian. Reminds me a little bit of like Arlington Road, but not nearly as good.
Yeah.
But see, those are such that weird conspiracy thriller thing.
It's a very 90s thing.
Yeah, even
Yeah.
Arlington Road, which is a good movie, but I don't ever want to watch it a second
Yeah,
time.
it's not a revisitable movie.
No, it's really not. But I mean, even that came out in what, 2000 or something?
No, that was like, I think that was like 96 or something.
Really?
I'm
Because
gonna
that's
check.
the one with oh god, it's been such a long time. Arlington Road. I just remember that they framed him at the end.
Yeah.
99. Yeah, Jeff Bridges, Tim Robbins.
Yeah. I just remember the movie opens with a kid whose hand was blown off.
Yeah,
from a
he's
firework.
walking down the street,
Yeah,
and then
and I
mom
was
made me
like-
stop watching, so that's why that's all I remember.
Yeah, don't tell me the dangers of fireworks. I'll make my own mistakes.
All right, Scott, what's next on your list?
All right, so since I have so many, because I'm looking at my list, I can definitely truncate a lot of these. By I want to talk about 2 TV shows that Megan and I have started a later season and did not complete because the TV shows have completely lost their way. So the first one is Elementary, season 5. That's Sherlock Holmes.
Right?
Yeah, and I enjoyed the first 3 seasons, and I think that the last season was kind of like, I'm not really a procedural type show person, but I just have a very strong love for Johnny Lee Miller being a snarky, cheeky Brit. So, plus Lucy Liu has been beautiful my entire life, so it's not a hard show to watch. But the last season, this current season, has just been really dumb. So I don't even think we got 6 episodes in, and we were just like, I think we're done with this show. So we're done with that show. Additionally, we only got maybe 3 episodes into Frontier season 3, and no matter how cool the concept of the show is and how beautifully shot on location it is, I just don't give a fuck about these people anymore. Like, it's the same.
I never even heard of Frontier, so
Yeah.
I'll just avoid that one.
Well, it's Jason Momoa.
Wow.
Who I always say Mimosa when I try to say his name.
Would I be surprised that you fuck up someone's name?
Stop the presses.
Oh man, but yeah, I don't recommend watching either of those series. Either of those seasons. Frontier season 1 is kind of fun, but then it just they really, I don't know why they're dragging it out, because it's the same story. Like a season should be the end of a story. Like there should be a big bad. It's just, I don't know. That's the way I feel about it. But it's like they're making this epic 40 episode story about this one thing. So fuck that.
All right. So next on my list is so far the only film that I've seen in 2019, like in theaters, Escape Room, which was dumb as hell, but also super fun. Like
what's the point of it?
So it's a bunch of people get invitations to test out this new immersive escape room, and they quickly realize that the goal of the escape room is that every single one of them is someone who beat the odds and survived a terrible thing. So like one person was like trapped in a mine with a bunch of other guys, and he was the only one that lived, and like another one survived a plane crash and stuff like that. And the rule of the game that's happening is they want to see who can be the sole survivor of the sole survivors. So like they're actively
That's
going
so
to continue to go through each room until only one of them is left living. But the rooms are fun. Like, it's such a dumb concept, but the rooms are fun enough that it's like exciting, and the actors are really dope in it. It's got like 3 or 4 actors who I really, really like, so that helped a lot because it had our boy Tyler Labine's up in there.
Oh, right on.
So he's in there. The best friend from Atypical is one of the people in there, and then the guy who frames Simon and loves Simon is one of the people in there. And all 3 of them do a really great job in the movie. So it's if it's on Netflix and you got nothing else to do, like, it's worth watching, but it's not like make it a goal to see, but it was fun. All right, Brian, you.
All right. Let's see what next is on my list. Oh, you know what movie I watched for the first time ever, and it was so fucking charming. And my fat Delco tongue is going to make this word very hard to say, but The Abominable Dr. Phibes.
Oh yeah.
That has like almost been on my pick list for probably 5 years, and I'm like, I don't know if we can make an episode out of this, but the movie's really fun.
Yeah, like it's like and I'm sure it's not, but it's like it's so weird to see like what seems like the first meta horror movie.
It really does feel very meta.
Dude, the scene I always think of is when the unicorn head stabs the dude, and like just the look of the detective as it's so I think Scott already used this word once, but it's so cheeky. He's staring straight ahead, and then his eyes just slowly look down at the unicorn through the guy, and he just drops his head in shame.
You know what?
Even the sequel's fun.
Yeah.
It's on Prime for free, so I might watch it. The sequel.
You should watch. You should double feature that shit with Dr. Goldfoot and his bikini machine.
I need to look this up right now.
It's a real movie that Megan and I have watched, and after we watched it all, and everyone, like maybe once a year, we'll just turn the other and go, Dr. Goldfoot and his bikini machine, because it's got a theme song.
I mean, I do want us to eventually do a classic Vincent Price movie.
Well,
I don't care if it's Dr. Phibes or like House
Tingler.
of Wax or something.
Well, we did House of Wax as Reddit Horror Club, so I would suggest we do something fresh, because I don't love that. I mean, if we're going to do House of Wax, I want to do House of Wax
with Paris Hilton.
Yeah, dude, that movie rules. I don't care what you think.
It is a good remake in the same way that like Black Christmas is a good remake, where it has nothing to do with its original source material, but they had a lot of fun with whatever they did.
Oh, for sure. But that's the thing about that movie, is that like it's such a different take on it, and it's so horror movie night that it's actually on my list, and so is The Tingler. So I mean, we can get serious with some.
I do want to see us dabble a little bit into some 50s and 60s stuff, because there's some really outrageous ones.
Yeah,
I have Horror at Party Beach still on my list one of these days. All right, Scott.
Oh yes, I have more TV shows to talk about because it's winter, and also this is 2 months truncated into one, because this is stuff that I watched in December as well. So The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel season 2, phenomenal, such a fun,
I gotta I started that first episode and I loved it, and then I got into the Game of Thrones thing, but I think that's going to be the next thing I watch.
Yeah, Rachel Brosnahan is just the absolute best. She's so wonderful. And she seems like she hasn't been tainted by Hollywood yet, so I'm just going to ride that train until she becomes a piece of shit, which hopefully never happens. So then I have Future Man season 2 that I finished. I think I binged that in maybe a week, which is still a binge for me, because I don't just sit and watch something until it's over. But I remember when Future Man season 1 came out, and I talked about it last year, I was somewhat underwhelmed by it, because I thought
I was just about to say that. I was like, I feel like you were like not blown away by it.
No, well, also people were like, oh, it's so funny, blah, blah, blah. And then I watched it and I'm like, I got really tired of the time travel jokes. Maybe 4 episodes before the end of season 1, and didn't know that they were going to make another season. So when the Facebook ads started to hit me, I was like, I'll give it a shot. Why not? And I really like season 2. It's a lot funnier because they're not jumping through time.
Okay.
Well, I mean, there's still time travel in it, but their time travel device is like in the hands of someone else, so they're stuck in a certain future. So it's funny. It's like written in the same vein, but it just didn't have all the time travel jokes that I did not enjoy from the first season. There are still some, but I thought that the other jokes that they had in the same vein, but that weren't time travel jokes, were funny. And there are some recurring jokes about, like, they did a time travel jump in season 1, and Wolf, one of the male leads, loses his monster dong, and it gets replaced with Josh, whatever his name. It's like they swap dongs because, it's like, and so he's got a small penis and Josh has like a monster penis, and it's like this joke that they keep coming back to in season 2. And
Brian, did you write Future Man secretly?
I just keep thinking of Frank Reynolds. I dropped my monster condom for my Magnum dong.
Yeah, it's not that far off. So yeah, Future Man season 2. I'd suggest people watch season 1 just to get to season 2 because it's way more fun.
All right.
Cool.
So I'm going to change it up and talk about a book that I read.
Ooh,
I
help me
read
remember
sometimes.
to talk about a book too.
So I read this book. I actually had met the author of the book multiple times because he's a friend of Jonathan. So he used to always sign at the Geekscape booth. And I talked about one of his books probably 2 years ago called Less Than Hero, about a bunch of drug test guinea pigs that develop superheroes. This one is supposedly his most well-known book. It's called Breathers. And it's about, it takes place in a reality where zombies exist, but they're kind of non-violent, but there's a lot of racism and hatred towards them because they're not normal. And the book is told through the perspective of like a AA self-help group of zombies that are just trying to be accepted in society. And, them going up against all of the racial bias that people have towards non-living creatures as opposed to living creatures. It's very funny and satirical. It's a quick read. It's like maybe 200 pages, but I had a good time reading it.
So
Cool.
wasn't there a movie that we discussed once that was like that?
I feel like there had to have been, but we've discussed between this and Reddit Horror Club, we talked about over 700 movies.
Are
so a
you
lot of them,
serious? Oh my God.
I think so. I could be a little off with that number, but it's been you and I together. Actually, it's probably more like 400 or 500. But yeah, between you and I, we've been doing this for 8 years. And for a long time, Reddit Horror Club was 2 movies a week. So we may have tackled way more than we could have handled. Anyway, that's all I've got to say about Breathers. Brian!
So Matt's going to be upset about this one.
Uh-huh.
Movie that came highly recommended by Matt that I
Oh, wow.
watched, and I was fairly let down with, was A Simple Favor. And
I can see.
and it was another
Is that the Anna Kendrick one?
Yes,
Yeah.
another poorly marketed movie. It was marketed as a thriller, and it's not. It's not even like a dark comedy. It's like a dim lit comedy. like it's pretty much just a comedy. Having said that, I laughed. I did laugh, but I was really expecting something different, so I walked away unhappy.
Yeah, I think that's fine. I think that I was shocked that it was a comedy when I saw it in theaters, and that's what made me like it so much, was that it kind of caught me off guard. But yeah, it was very poorly advertised as just like a almost French noir thriller.
That's
Yeah.
weird.
And you
Yeah.
gotta understand, like, me and Jade kind of have like a ritual of sorts. Like, anything that's being put on after 8:00 at night and all the lights are off is a thriller or horror. So if we get bamboozled, like, I'm sure if I watched it at 2:00 in the afternoon, I would probably have enjoyed it more. But it really ruined my my dark night.
You watched
You
that
know.
with Mom
Mom
and
and
Julie, though,
Julie,
right? Yeah,
yeah.
because Mom was like, it was really good.
Yeah.
It's a very mom movie.
It is.
That's not selling it.
You know,
Yeah, my
as
mom
much as-
loved it.
I was gonna say, as much as a mom movie you can have with like incest and all types of other terrible
Wow,
things.
you are
but,
really not selling this fucking film.
Oh,
yeah. I don't know. There are some good lines in there though.
no,
But,
it
all
is
right.
funny, but yeah.
All right, Scott.
All right, so I have 2 horror movies to discuss. Well, 3. I'm just gonna touch on one. Finally got Megan to watch The Witch. She liked it, didn't love it, but now she can quote the Live Deliciously shit, so that's cool. And then I
Nice.
watched, and I know I talked about it on the group, Incident in a Ghost Land, which is from the director and possibly writer-director of Frontiers? No, Martyrs. And
Okay.
when you watch it knowing that, which I didn't know watching it, but afterwards, because Mario suggested I watch it, and he was like, it's pretty good. There's a lot of torture and kind of demeaning, misogynistic overtones to the film that that's one of the reasons why I don't really like New French Extreme personally, but it was an interesting twist. There were some interesting twists in it, and I liked, you know how I talked about during Smiley, the concept of them writing scenes poorly to indicate that they are not to be taken seriously, I guess.
Yeah.
It kind of does that and well. So I want to give it props for that. It's more someone else's cup of tea than mine. It doesn't have any humor in it. So it's just pretty dark. But I washed that one down maybe a week later with a real banger that 2021, maybe 2020, we will have to discuss. Mimic.
Oh yeah.
Mira Sorvino as sexy doctor, sexy biologist, with this very odd subplot of her and her husband trying to become pregnant that goes literally nowhere. But it is a fun watch. It's like 1996 or something like that, and I haven't watched it since probably 1997.
I was gonna say, I feel like it was from that wave of like, ooh, Species did well. Like, what more can we do?
It's so different than Species, though, and I always think about it as like in that same vein, but it's not. It's not. It's sci-fi in that they create this new species of bug. It's just so silly. I mean, I'm gonna watch 2 and 3 because I didn't even know there was a Mimic 3, and then you were like, "Hey, Scott, there's a Mimic 3." And I'll watch all those because those look like schlock that I could really get behind.
All right, so I watched. This is the only. No, that's not true. So I watched this maybe a week ago. This was a late addition onto this list, and I had a ton of fun watching it. Was the Bilko Experiment?
Really?
I never had seen it before. I still haven't seen Mayhem, so I can't say if it's better or worse than Mayhem. But Mayhem's on the list. But the cast for Bilko Experiment is awesome, and it's just it's such a James Gunn movie. Like, like as you're watching it, you're like, okay, like I know he didn't direct this, but you can definitely like his dark sense of humor is just like scattered all over that movie. But it's fun. It's not. I don't know if I'd rewatch it again. Definitely not anytime soon. I might revisit like years down the line. But it was a fun movie. I was surprised. I thought it was going to make me feel the way that like Battle Royale made me feel, where I just never really wanted to see it again. But this was. I think it's because it's so over the top and outrageous that I kind of enjoyed it a lot more than I thought.
You're going to enjoy Mayhem then.
Oh, I'm going to love the shit out of Mayhem, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
But all right, Brian.
So I watched White Boy Rick last weekend, and they really didn't need to make that movie.
What is it?
It's about the like this kid that was a 14-year-old FBI informant and then became like a big drug dealer. And it's sad. Like it's definitely not the worst movie I've seen. And the one thing I can say is this is probably the first movies that I've seen like involved in like drug dealing that like they did not romanticize it at all.
Have you ever seen Alpha Dog?
But there was still some. Yeah, I guess Alpha Dog, they didn't romanticize it at all either. But Alpha Dog is bad.
Wait, you don't like Alpha Dog?
I think Alpha Dog's all right. all right. But White Boy Rick was like, you know, it just seemed like they rushed through it. It is very sad. I mean, the guy either just got released from jail or is still in jail. He was serving a life sentence, and he's one of like the few
Whoa.
people. He's one of like I think one of the few people that's currently in jail for life for nonviolent history and nonviolent crimes.
Whoa.
Yeah, so it's not like he like killed a guy or did anything. It's just strictly selling drugs, and he got handed a life sentence at like 17 years old. So it's a sad movie, but you don't have to see it. Watch the documentary on him; it's much better.
All right, Scott, pick us up from that.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I have two things left.
Morning. It's all downhill from here for me.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna tap out here. I want to talk about one thing I read and one thing I watched. Now, two things I read. Sorry. When you think, oh, Scott reads, he's probably thinking something valid and valuable. No, I found 20 or 30 EC Comics House of Horrors at an estate sale for $1 a piece. Bought them all. They're so dumb and so fun. I might take them with me to Mania and see if anybody wants them, because they're just gonna gather dust here. But they're so fun to have found them, and I love the cover art. But they're just silly. They're just so silly. They're just Tales from the Crypt, basically. And then I also read a very good short story that Megan suggested to me a while back. It's called The Yellow Wallpaper. It's super famous. Have you guys ever read it?
No.
It's a Victorian piece, and it's a big deal because it's Victorian horror written by a woman. And it wasn't like under a pseudonym or anything like that, but it's a relatively short story, maybe 15 pages. And it's talking about how she's kind of laid up for, hysteria, some Victorian thing in this. It's probably postpartum depression that she's really talking about, but they didn't know about that at the time. So she's laid up in this room at like a summer house or something like that. And she starts to get obsessed with the ugly yellow wallpaper, and she thinks that there are people moving behind it. And it's just kind of like a descent into madness, very, very Lovecraftian in that sense, but without monsters. And it's very, very good. Megan told me about it because she had to read it for, I don't know, some literature class in college. And she's like, "You've never heard of The Yellow Wallpaper?" I'm like, "No, I didn't take a whole lot of lit classes." And she's like, "Oh yeah, it's a women in lit thing." So I'll post it. It's like there's a PDF that the government has it on one of their websites, like the National Institute of History or something. And I'll post the link on the Facebook group after this drops. It's very good.
Cool. Okay, awesome. Also, guys, real quick, I apologize. A pop-up came up on my computer, and for some reason, it was playing through my desktop and not my headphones, and I didn't realize what the noise was, and it might have just bled. Did you guys hear that?
No, there was nothing even showed up on your sound wave. So
okay, good.
So stop clicking around the internet.
Lauren's not going to watch itself, man.
Yeah. How do I get through this?
So this is the last thing on my list, and it's another thing that I read. This was a probably 4-month project, but I got rid of pretty much all of my comic books. Got myself narrowed down to a single long box, and have been replacing it by getting graphic novels of the series that I really wanted to read. So the first one that I finally got through is Y: The Last Man, which is just really fucking great graphic novel series. Ends on a really, for what is a fairly fun post-apocalyptic comic book series, ends on a really strange downer note, and I'm kind of okay with it. But now my new one is that I've moved on to Lock and Key by Joe Hill. So we'll see how I enjoy that.
Are they doing a Lock and Key movie?
I think they're doing a TV show,
yes.
maybe.
Yeah, that's what it is.
But I'm going to do that. And I think in between the Lock and Key books, because there's only 7 of them, I'm going to be trying to work my way through Invincible. But Invincible is really, really long. So that's probably going to be like a 2-3 year project to get through Invincible.
Damn.
yeah, because I think that went like 125 comics or something like that before it got canceled. So the graphic novels are all like 5-issue collections.
Of course, so it's expensive.
Yeah, so it's going to be a long uphill battle for that one. Brian.
So I'm just gonna knock out the last few. Disney, watch Big Hero 6 and Monsters University. Both very endearing, fun movies. Not the best, not the worst. New Year, New You, the newest Into the Dark.
Mm-hmm.
Not great, but definitely not as bad as Puka. So they're pretty.
Like that's what I've been hearing from a lot of people. Is that exact review?
Yeah. And then I saw Vice. That was the first movie I saw this year, which I fucking loved. I loved Vice. Adam McKay is just very skilled at taking a complicated subject and just putting it in layman's terms for everyone to understand. I suggest everyone see that. It was super, super cool, super scary in a sense of just like how fucked up everything is, but really good movie. And then what I want to end with is I started watching True Detective season 3. And the only reason I want to bring this up is because if there's anybody out there that's like me that loved True Detective season 1, didn't finish True Detective season 2 because it lost the feel and is hesitant to watch True Detective season 3, do it because it's got the feel of the first one. It's super fucking good. It's super gritty. Check it out. And that's all I got.
All right, Scott, take us home.
Oh, shit. Okay, well, I was going to save this one for next month, but I'll just do it now. Crazy Rich Asians. Real fun.
Super good. I love that movie.
I mean, I'm not... I don't love it. Like, I'm not going to see it again, but renting it for like $3 or something and then watching it with, you know, your significant other is not a bad way to spend some time.
Yeah, it's got a very good like late 90s rom-com vibe to it though, which is what I really liked about it.
Yeah.
Like it feels like an old rom-com movie. And Awkwafina is just so fucking funny in that movie.
Awkwafina?
She's the best friend.
Oh. No, my favorite is her dad.
Oh,
I can't remember his real name, but you know, he was in The
from The Hangover and all that.
Yeah,
stuff.
but I just love it because there's that one part where they're having lunch or something like that, and he goes, "Eat all your chicken nuggets. There are starving people in America."
Good movie, good time. We will be back with another one of these. Guys, just a heads up. I know we haven't put a lot of bonus material on the feed as of late because we've been putting a lot of stuff on the Patreon, which highly recommend. Hit up the Patreon, patreon.com/HMN podcast. I have 3 or 4 interviews that are all going to be dropping this week or into next week. So stay tuned. And we'll be back with another episode on Friday.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network. You're listening to the Geekscape Network.